that is how you build community. And ideally, when you build community, you build loyalty, trust, affinity, so that when they're ready to buy that product, they're going to put you first on the shopping list.
Welcome to Move the Needle, the show where we explore how teams turn data into growth. Real stories, proven playbooks. Let's get into it.
All right, welcome to Move the Needle. Today we're joined by Dave Gerhardt, the founder of Exit5, which is the top community for B2B marketing professionals. Prior to founding Exit5, Dave was also the VP of marketing and then the chief brand officer at Drift, where his work helped the company achieve $1 billion exit. Also previously CMO at Privy, which he led towards $100 million plus exit. So a lot of great experience there. Dave is also the author of Founder Brand, a frequent podcast guest and speaker. Dave, you're someone I've been really excited to chat with for a while. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's kind of you. It's always more fun to chat with somebody when they want to talk to you.
Oh, you know what? As the podcast host, I only choose people that I actually want to talk to.
Good. That's how it
So,
should be. Heck yeah. Good.
yes, I followed Exit5 for a while. You guys put out so much great, useful content for B2B marketers. So this is a pleasure for me to get to chat with you.
Cool. Thank you.
I wanted to start by talking about community. Obviously, this is core to Exit5's offerings and something you talk about a lot. And you've shared that Exit5 grew nearly 80% last year by treating your marketing community like a product. And I wondered if you could talk more about that.
Yeah. Geez, I always get in trouble when I write things online and then people come back with the statements. I mean, so the short answer is it is our product, right? And so what's cool about Exit5 is that this whole thing kind of started unintentionally. I was a marketing person and I just grew to love marketing, and I found there's this kind of whole subworld of like people sharing what you're doing with your job online, whether you work in marketing or sales or accounting or gardening, whatever the domain is. If you share that stuff online, you can attract like-minded people. And so I started writing about marketing years ago on LinkedIn, and I had a podcast, and then I happened to work at a company that made marketing software. And so I got even closer to the role of marketer. And along the way, I launched my own little private community of marketing people on the side. And it was called DGMG, Dave Gerhardt Marketing Group. My wife likes to tell me that I'm terrible at naming things, and she's right. And I had no plans to like turn it into a real business or a real company. It was just, I was a CMO, and this was kind of a little, like my Substack, right? But it was on Patreon. Now Substack is more popular. It's just a good analogy. And then a couple of years ago, we had basically grown to a couple thousand members. We had a podcast, we had a newsletter, we had companies wanting to sponsor, people asking about doing events. And I had this kind of weird in-between year of wandering after those companies that you mentioned in the intro had some exits. I was doing consulting for a little bit, and then the consulting money was really good until 2021. And then the ZERP era went away, and all these founders that had all this VC money and kind of that all dried up, and there wasn't a lot of money in consulting. And I realized I had the opportunity to basically burn the boats and try to turn this DGMG thing into a real business. And I wanted to basically rebrand it so it wasn't, I wasn't the center of it. I had seen other successful communities in the past. Super familiar with Max Altschuler from GTM Fund, and he had this company called Sales Hacker. They sold to Outreach back in the day. I think Sam Jacobs in Pavilion, they've built a really cool business, and I kind of started to realize like we have that already. We already had product market fit. We already had thousands of paying members. We already had a popular podcast. I just had it under this DGMG brand, and so I wanted to rebrand it to something memorable, Exit5, hire a team and build from there. And so really it was more of this decision of like everything I think in the trajectory of the business now goes back to like the fall of 2023, when I decided to take it from a side project of mine since dating back to November of 2019. What was that, 4 years? And deciding to like hire real people, brought on Dan Murphy to be COO, brought on a couple other people on the team, built a real company. And so the community piece is a part of the business. And so instead of it just treating it like, initially with my Patreon thing, it was like, oh, if I had an additional thought, I would just kind of go and I wrote my 2 minutes on Patreon for the day. But instead, we try to treat it like a real product. We have a product owner, Matt, on our team as the community manager. We have a roadmap. We have features. We have feedback. We do NPS. We have things we want to build. And so just really taking the care to treat it like a real product the last 2 years, as opposed to kind of Dave's side project, has been everything.
And still run by a pretty small team, right? Team of 5 or 6?
Yeah, a team of 5 or 6. Although in the age of AI, all of the LinkedIn content and the VCs and everybody will tell you that probably even 5 people is too many. So it really should just be fire everyone, and it should be me and like a ChatGPT or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm very self-conscious about the teams. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what they tell us.
Yeah, it's five people. So it's a good size for where we're at. And most importantly, I'm having a lot of fun, and I feel like I've been growing again professionally, which is really cool.
It's the best part. From your perspective, what are some of the keys to launching and growing a successful community?
Okay, well, we can't answer that question without first peeling back, like, what is the definition of community? And I don't have a perfect definition. I feel like I wrote this down at some point, but I'm not going to try to recite it now. I have it in like an Apple note, because I wanted to try to write a definition first. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can look it up while we're here, because a lot of people ask. Obviously, I'm a huge thought leader, and I'm building community. And that was a joke. You didn't laugh. You never know. Some people think that's funny. My team gives me a hard time. It's an internal joke, and I say it externally, like, "Wow, he really is an asshole."
Love it. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, it's okay. So there's so the community question is interesting because there's a community, which is like a Slack group, but ours is on Circle. It could be WhatsApp, it could be whatever. And then there is community, like I live in this town in Vermont, and there's a local community because we all kind of live in this surrounding area, and we want to take care of the land, and we pay taxes, and we go to the school. And so I think that first question is like, are we talking about, should you build a private, walled community user group place? And I think you can make the case that maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't, right? But I think the broader thing is like, community to me is one of the most powerful ingredients in marketing, because basically you're tapping into this shared interest. So let's forget about like where it's hosted, what it is, private community, public, whatever actual place somebody goes to log in, and more just like, yeah, like Dads Who Run is a community. That doesn't mean that we have a Circle product that we're going to go log in, but I think this is what the unique opportunity is from a business standpoint, which is like you're selling a product, right? Like you work at Databox. How would you describe the product? Like one or two lines about like the space you play in, data analytics?
Yeah, business intelligence. Yeah.
Okay, business intelligence. Perfect. And so there are plenty of people in the world who work in business intelligence. There is probably something that they can rally around that has nothing to do with Databox, but you can be basically the stewards of that conversation, right? They all go to work every day. They all have problems. You are in the middle of those because you have customers. You know this world really well. Pete's been working in this industry forever now. Like you have all this information and knowledge. And so you can basically be the one to host the party, and people build that. That's one form of community, right? Another form of community is like, people just love certain products. Like, Strava is a great example of like people who run or bike. They have this great app. You can track your runs. That app by the nature of it has community built in, because we're going to be friends. We're going to connect on the app. You're going to see all my details. And then there's the other example, which is like, okay, do we want to build a private walled space for people to hang out? And there isn't one really. I can't give you one snippet for social media to answer that question, because I think it's kind of like anything in marketing. There's a lot of nuance, and I would kind of run down the plays there. And then you look at a company like HubSpot. They built this category of inbound marketing back in the day. They had raving fans, and they weren't raving about HubSpot's software. It was HubSpot said, hey, this was 2010. Obviously this is all changing now, but 2010, they said, hey, there's a new way to do marketing, and it's about like creating content that people love, and it attracts them to your brand. That was such a powerful message at the time, because it was like, I'm one of those marketers. Like I love writing. I love creating content. I'm not in it for all the outbound and ads and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I rock with HubSpot. That's cool. I was a fan of them for 15 years before ever buying their product, but I was a fan. They, they told me this mission, this kind of vision that they had about inbound marketing, and I would consider myself a community member of HubSpot, despite the fact that I never logged into a community.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's not an answer. That's me trying
Yeah,
to
I love it.
explain all of the nuance there, and I'm happy
Hmm.
to jump into it from there. And then I'm assuming most of the audience of this is in B2B, and I think what's cool about B2B is the opportunity is that like we're the opportunity from a company standpoint is to help people do their jobs better. And I believe that like knowledge and expertise and education is the best ingredients for successful B2B marketing. You have to have a great product. You have to have a product that works and people want to use and love and enjoy. But if you can create content and education around the bigger problem that you're trying to solve,
Hmm.
help me as a salesperson, help me as a marketer, that is how you build community. And ideally, when you build community, you build loyalty, trust, affinity, so that when somebody has the time and place that when they're ready to buy that product, they might not necessarily always buy you, but they're gonna put you first on the shopping list.
Yeah. That makes sense. I like that you covered the whole spectrum there of different ways to think about community. And I would imagine if a company is not doing a good job building that broadest definition of community, stewarding good conversations, attracting people to the story and the point of view that you have, then there's really no point in jumping to trying to build a walled or a paid community because you haven't done the
Absolutely.
groundwork
Oh, no, I
first.
love that. I like the way you reframe that because that to me is where all of this starts, right? And I think I get a lot of questions about how to build a community because that's the business and world that I've happened to
Mhm.
be in, but I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in this. I don't have an opinion like every company because I have a private community with Exit 5. I think everybody often thinks that like my point of view is like every company should have a private community. And it's like, no, you actually shouldn't, because what happens is like most often, like all communities, this is my biggest fear with Exit 5. And eventually every community goes to zero at some point because it just becomes spam, it just becomes noise, or the community starts off strong. You want to launch a community at Databox, and you hire, and this is no disrespect to you all. This is just how this usually happens. And I like to speak with examples. You hire Pete's 22-year-old niece to like manage the community, and it's a Slack group, and like it starts off nice, but then like after kind of 4 weeks, it just ends up being like people promoting their own blog posts in there.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that every company should have a community at all. We got into this because I think it's a unique business opportunity that we got in, where like I had 2,000 subscribers on Patreon. A member of mine,
Mhm.
Henry Johnson, messaged me one day and he's like, "Hey man, it's cool to listen to you, but like since there's 2,000 of us in there, like how about you let us all talk to each other?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's genius, dude." And so we added the community from that standpoint. So I don't feel strongly. In fact, I actually would probably recommend most people don't. And I think instead most people focus on what you talked about in the beginning of that question, which is like, let's focus on like, let's just take a level up from where our product is. Like if we're Databox and we are business intelligence, like we want the people who work in business intelligence to spend their time with us. How do we get them to do that? Well, it's not going to be about talking about the features and all the nonsense in Databox. It's going to be like, well, what do BI folks care about? What do they do? They have their own language, they have their own humor. What we're seeing with Exit 5 is like beyond all the marketing stuff that we're talking about. It's like people want work friends virtually even, right? Because nobody else, like none of my like dad friends care about that B2B marketing.
Yeah.
Do not care.
Really? Oh, that's
No,
interesting.
it's very surprising, right? So I just tell people I work in the internet.
There you go.
But we have 6,500 people inside of Exit 5 who do care deeply about B2B
Yeah.
marketing. And so what's cool is like it kind of flips the conversation. So now it's like, oh, this is Charlie. Charlie is VP of marketing at this AI company. Charlie also likes to run. Charlie also has 3 kids. Now we're building a friend. So it's not just about like that we share like hot marketing tips in there. Like we're really seeing this. That's the power of communities connecting
Yeah.
people. And so that's
Yeah.
like the approach from like the Databox side is like, how do we connect people in the BI world? And then the result of that downstream is hopefully they'll end up buying our product.
I love it. I mean, music to my content marketing ears.
Wait, the
So,
hard part though is so the everything I just described is like that's how marketing works. But then like the CEO and the CFO often are like, awesome. So how are we going to measure that?
Did you know that was my next question?
I didn't, but it's
I
like,
mean, we are a
I don't
business
know.
intelligence
We're gonna
company,
cookie
so
everybody,
yes.
and we'll make sure that anytime they talk about our company, they will use a UTM link, and we will be able to perfectly measure this. I promise you.
You mean you haven't figured out how to perfectly measure all of it? That is a
No,
question though.
absolutely not. Do
Yeah.
you
How
want to
about
ask the question? Why don't you
imperfectly?
ask the
How
question?
about imperfectly? How do you try to tie, we'll say community, social, like the broad definition of community engagement back to business outcomes?
Okay, so I feel like whenever we talk about this question, we by default assume that like the people in our community and in our audience are just complete morons and have no idea and no recall, and they'll never tell you. And what I've found, I'm certainly not an analytics expert. I'm good at writing and storytelling. I haven't done this at a humongous company, and so I'm sure the rules are different for how you'd measure, the ROI of a billboard by Cisco in the Austin airport. I don't know how to do those things. It's not what I'm good at. But I find that a lot of times, believe it or not, people will tell you. That's it. That's number one. We can riff on that more, but that is the number one thing. And in fact, I worked at this company called Drift, and we had this amazing podcast there that we did. And the podcast was not about our product. It was about work and life and entrepreneurship and startup lessons. And no joke, the first $1 million in pipeline and the first $1 million in revenue that we did as a company, we probably had 5 sales reps at the time. I would bet you that 75% of them would tell you like, hey, so I was on a call with a prospect today, and she told me that she listens to Seeking Wisdom and she's a super fan.
Mm,
So how do we measure that? How do we know? That is how we know. She just told us, literally just told us.
right.
But it's like we want to try to like break down all of the ingredients, and it's like, okay, well, this part costs $20 and this part costs $10. We need to add them all up and then like make the math work by the part. But it's like, no, this is good marketing. Which is, it doesn't feel like marketing because it's really not. It's community building, it's audience building, it's content, right? Content is your thing. Imagine every single article you wrote, you had to like try to tell someone in your team like what the ROI of that article was. It's like, no, that's not how it works. The goal is like over time,
Mhm.
we publish lots of great, relevant, useful, specific content on the Databox site. We get more traffic, we get more links, people talk about us. Now people just start to show up without us doing anything,
Yeah.
and they hear about us. And so what's really cool now is, and we didn't have all this in that era, which is like all this is going to come up on sales calls, and you can record them with whatever
Mhm.
you're using, and
Mhm.
get that data. Like that's what I would be looking for. I'd be like, how many of the 100 customers that we close this month, if you have a motion where you have sales reps that are in that process, or even
Mhm.
customer success or whatever, like just ask them, how did you end up hearing about us? And they're going to tell you, oh, I went to this event, or I listened to this podcast. And so I'm not as caught. I think I think you can find ways to measure anything really. I read this question as more of like, how do we justify it? And I think the way that you need to start by justifying it is like, if your company does not inherently understand that this is how great marketing works, then like you need to sit down and need to draw that out. And I think this is the
Mhm.
job of a good marketing leader, is to be like, hey, let's first like talk about the customer journey. Let's talk about how people are going to buy our product, and let's get in agreement with that, right? Because it's not just this entirely coin operated machine.
Mhm.
And so the very first thing I'm going to do, and I used to do this all the time at Drift, internal marketing was a big part of our job there, was basically like explain to the company and the CFO and who sales team, whatever, but like our philosophy on like, hey, here's how we think people are going to buy from us, right? They're doing research, they're going to go to events, they might do some Google searches. Yes, we got to show up in SEO, we got to show up in ads, but there's kind of all this other stuff that we can influence them. They buy from text, their friends are influencing these purchase decisions. And so you have to teach people how good marketing works, right? Like, did you buy that like Claire V bag because you saw this direct response ad and immediately clicked on it and bought it? It's like, no, you got a friend who had that bag and you like that style. And then you end up like hearing this thing, and you heard this, like the founder actually like is a big believer in like women's rights, and she donated all this money to this cause. Oh, that cool. That brand is really cool. Then you happen to be sitting on the couch one night and you see an ad, and you're kind of like, watching Bravo, and it's kind of boring. And then you buy the bag, right? the ad is going to get the credit for that. It's the same
Mhm.
thing in B2B. It's being able to tell that whole story. And so I think people are going to tell you by doing it. I also think the way you measure this is one of the simplest ways to think about brand in this sense. And I think about brand meaning like your reputation, not your, logo or colors, is how many people showed up to your website directly,
Mhm.
right? Like what I've heard the term Databox. I know they do business intelligence. Like how many people went directly to
Yeah.
databox.com? Because
Large percentage.
who who's doing that if they haven't heard? Now, the challenge is you don't know if the thing that got them there was like your Instagram post or, Pete's like LinkedIn rant or whatever. But I think we're just looking at broad strokes, like, and then the other part is like with social media today, you can just you can feel it. This is what's amazing about social media marketing. And it's not a secondary part of a brand strategy anymore. It's the core part. It's like,
Mhm.
and I'm sure I've seen Pete's content as an example, but like I'm sure you can write about things and the response to a topic now becomes a signal for like, man, when we write about blank, right? You're not, well, give me an example. I'm sure that's happened inside the company lately.
Well, I take a little bit of pride in this one, so I will give you an example. I will say Pete's post that blew up the most within the last 3 months was one that he wrote up about our content playbook, actually, and talked about specifically how we do podcasts, repurpose that into newsletters, in support of our multi-channel, omni-channel strategy, but got very specific about how exactly we do it, laid out the playbook, and that one did really well.
Okay, so that did really well. Doing really well doesn't necessarily mean that like you got 7 new customers from that post, right?
Yep.
But it means that probably more likes and comments, and then the actual qualitative of the comments matters. Like, again, back to the we're not morons thing. Like, wow, I'm getting a lot of VPs or heads of marketing or like people at legit companies commenting on this post or like asking me to send them the recipe or whatever. Those signs all matter. Those are all signals. Probably getting more DMs. Probably over time, it's getting shared. Those are signs that's how we know that this is working. We need to stop trying to like compare what's working with like direct response marketing, right? What's working with like a PPC ad is going to be like, are we spending money on this traffic and is the traffic converting? What's working with content, brand, community is this stuff that's going to build and take time. And then the last thing I'll shut up on this is I also think like just the brand and awareness is just so underrated and we don't think about it enough, or we think that awareness has to mean like we engage some like research firm and all these we did this big study. I would put it as like, look, if you have a sales team, like, do you want to work for the brand where more people know that your company exists or not? Right. And so when we're doing outbound, have people heard of us before, roughly? Then like marketing basically opens the doors for all of those conversations. Like we used to say at Drift, it's like, this is like, you kind of get that rusty, squeaky door that's hard to open. And then like you come in and spray some WD-40 on it and it's much easier to open. That's
Yeah,
what great marketing and great
I like that.
content can do for the brand. You just got to be able to like package all of this up and explain how you're doing marketing internally to the company. If you're just out there and you're talking about how you're writing 3 articles a week and that's all you ever talk about, then of course everyone's gonna be like, well, what do we pay this person? And like, what does it cost to produce these articles? And how long do they take? And what's the result? But if you can paint this bigger picture, I think that is where you'll be more successful in having these conversations about what works.
Love it. Since you are a community-based product, I'll ask, what are the measures of success, the metrics and, KPIs that you look at and that are important to you in
So
in
the
your business?
number one is NPS, Net Promoter Score. Just how likely are people to recommend this product? How happy are they? That goes back to that, because what does it matter? All the stats and everything doesn't matter if people don't want to be there. And so we look at that. Number one. Number two is probably monthly active users and just engagement. Like, and then obviously it's a paid community. We're not trying to like sell you a software license after. So for us, it's not really like a lead gen tool. It is the product, and I think having it be a paid community helps create a bunch of value and keep a lot of like the riffraff out. I think Pep Laya has called it that, and I've taken that. It keeps the riffraff out. So new members, revenue, churn. What else? Then like the leading indicators would be traffic. Our email list is a big part of our business. And so looking at the health of that list, opens, engagement, unsubscribes, and then just like where traffic is coming from. Like for example, it's today we're recording this. It's the third week of July. The first 2 weeks, a big portion of our traffic, probably 50% of it, comes from advertising,
Okay.
and it was slow, and so we weren't generating a lot of contacts. Traffic was down, contacts were down, everything was down. That's kind of what we would go look at, and then the longer term view on it is like, um, twice a year we'll measure NPS of the community and use that to determine like, are people happy with the product?
And if they're not, based on that feedback, what do you do with that data?
Well, we don't. We just gaslight them until they are happy with the product.
That's how's that working?
Yeah, it's great. It's
Great.
great. Totally recommend it. No, I mean, so obviously, like we measure NPS once or twice a year, but we don't wait to make changes. What's amazing about a community-based business is that the feedback loop is kind of always going. I
Mm,
mean, I'm in the community every day. I'm getting messages from members all the time. Our team is getting messages. We're seeing posts. We're seeing comments. Like the feedback loop is always there. Every week we get, if somebody churns, hopefully they leave a note about why they churned, and those get fed into your Slack. And so we can see the churn reason about why. And so there's all those like indicators along the way. And then we have a regular like community discussion and community meeting where we look at the community metrics, we have goals. And so we're kind of, it is a product, right? So we're always talking about it. And so if it's like, hey, like churn has been brutal the last 2 weeks, like let's do something about it. Or like, hey, we did this thing inside the community and it flopped. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Let's do it. We're treating it like a
yeah.
product. There's sprints, there's goals, there's a
Nice.
roadmap.
Yep. It's nice being at, I don't know if you feel the same way. I know for me, being at a smaller company again, where like those changes can happen quickly is really refreshing. Been in a few larger orgs where those wheels turn very slowly.
Yeah. I don't know if I could, kind of only worked at smaller, fast moving companies. Big for me was like 300 people. Well, I guess I worked at HubSpot. That was a lot of people, but I was
Pretty
on
big.
a small team. Yeah, that would drive me nuts, especially just with the speed of like how things move today. Like I'm just, we just believe in like daily shipping, weekly shipping, constant like small iterations to make things better.
It's a much
That's the
better
way.
experience for the customers. So I love that you are in the community every single day. People are reaching out to you. You said you're, I'm sure, watching the discussions that are happening there. So I would love to know, like, what's the chatter right now? What are the top things? I know AI has to be one of them, but what else are the top B2B leaders talking about in your community?
I mean, I wish there was an else, but it's
Okay.
AI.
Yeah.
There's no else. I think the else is like, I would say I kind of bucketed things in my head right now into like, there's the kind of I don't even, maybe timeless is the wrong frame for it, but there's the strategy, the stuff that marketing leaders and marketers are always talking about, at least until all of our jobs are replaced by AI, is like strategy stuff, hiring, firing, goal setting. Hey, like you know, I just got asked to take over this new like geography, and we've never had a sales rep over there before. How would you think about structuring comp? And there's kind of those like strategy level type of stuff. And then all of the other stuff is very much AI related. And it's not just AI tool related. I think that the challenge is like what's happening with the AI stuff is that it's not about like the recipes of how you're using these tools. That is a hugely popular, we do a ton of content around that, and that is going to continue. But what the AI discussions have caused is kind of this like existential, like, where is marketing going?
Yeah.
What is happening? I talked to a CMO, 2 weeks ago, and she was like, my company, like I got 70 people on my team, and like our board and our founders and everyone is pushing me to be like, what are we doing with AI? Where does it, what does the future of the team look like? And so
Yeah.
it's not just like, here's how you can use AI to send an SDR outreach email, and
Right.
we're going to show you how to do that. The
It's bigger than
thing,
that.
those things are interesting, and we show a lot of those, but I think it's really people are rethinking about the role and the goals of marketing in this world. And I think it's, I was in like seventh or eighth eighth grade when the internet really happened, maybe sixth, seventh, eighth grade when the internet happened. So I can't, I wasn't thinking about this. I was trolling Smarter Child on AIM. Um, but it feels like that. It feels like, okay, we all work at these businesses where we just got access to the internet. Like, what's going to happen?
Yep.
That is the macro thing that I think everybody's talking about and thinking about.
Would you say in general the sentiment is optimistic, pessimistic, somewhere in the middle?
I think the pessimists are pessimistic about it. The optimists are optimistic about it. I think if you put them all in a bucket and you blended them together, I think it would be right down the middle. I see all sides of it. I see you open up LinkedIn and there is the person who's always mad at someone and always angry at someone. That post is going to be about how this is the worst thing ever, and AI, and the privacy, and I'm not saying those are not true claims. I don't know. I'm just saying. And then on the other side, it's like, no, this is amazing. Here's what's going to happen with marketers. And so, I don't know. I'm an optimist. I am.
Somebody's
I
got to be.
believe that like you can create your own future, and that someone's gonna go, well, of course you can. Like, what privilege to say that. But that's not what I'm just saying, like, I believe that I have a very entrepreneurial mindset, which is like, okay, I don't know. Go ahead, take my job away. We'll figure it out. I don't know. That's how I've always been. I'm like, I like the challenge. I like the competition. Go ahead, like replace Exit 5. Exit 5 goes to 0 because of AI. I promise you I'm not going to be out on the street. I'm going to freaking find a way to create something of value. I don't know. Maybe I'll go buy a car wash. I don't know. I don't
Right
know.
away. Yeah.
But that's just my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm.
Not the first time things have been totally shaken up, and not the last time it'll happen either, right?
Yeah. Look, I also feel like there's like, and I kind of go back and forth in this every day, which is like, the rate of change of AI is insane right now, but at the same time, it's still not perfect, and you need a human in there to take things to the last line, right? And so everybody's obsessed. Like right now, there's Google has this like VO3. I'm sure you've seen it, where you can basically write a prompt in Google and they make this like 8-second video for you, right? If you don't know what you're doing and you go do that, it's terrible. I've tried. I cannot make a good VO3. If you are funny, witty, creative, know how to prompt it in the right way, have done a bunch of research on it, then like, yes, you're going to get a better output. And so the variable there is still like,
A human.
I can't just sneeze into Google Gemini and get this like amazing ad for my company. That's what you see on LinkedIn. You're like, check
Yeah.
out, like everybody, someone made this like fake liquid death ad that
Okay.
went viral. And it's not like Dave Gerhardt just sat down on his computer and like, wrote 3 sentences into some AI tool and got that. Like there is real work and the real creativity. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing to take the optimistic view of like, I think of this as like, I love marketing. I love creating. I'm treating this stuff as like a video game or some super intelligent software that's going to allow me to like do my job to the max. Or like
Mm-hmm.
you as a content person doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden all the Databox content is going to be AI slop because you have access to all these tools. It's like, oh, now as a team of one, look at how many things I can do by myself.
Right.
And how much, how much faster can I go and how much better can I get things? And like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I can actually build this website by myself without having to be like, get halfway. And then also, Jason Lemkin from SaaS has been writing about this recently, but like everybody's talking about vibe coding. Almost everybody that's ever tried to actually vibe code that's not an actual engineer, like you get somewhere along the way and you're just stuck and you stop and you never finish anything because there is still some
Mm-hmm.
technical knowledge you need. There is still some complexity. And so I think there's probably going to be a year, I don't know if it's 2 years or 5 years, but a buffer of like, not all of this stuff is going to change overnight. But it's definitely coming. And if you can use these tools to your advantage to make your job better and more effective and more efficient, and then also on the optimist piece of this, like, okay, let's just say that like, yeah, this AI stuff is going to take all of our jobs. Well, then like, do you just want to ignore it? Or do you want to
Get ahead of it.
get ahead of it and fully understand it and have an opportunity to be You know how valuable like if you were like a digital marketer, internet marketer was to a company to figure that out, and then there's also like all these legacy companies that I don't think they're not going to go out of business overnight. Hopefully not. I don't know. I really don't know. I hate giving like predictions because like I don't know and I change my mind all the time, but I'm just answering your questions on
Yeah,
your
no, I love
podcast.
it.
So
It's really helpful. I mean, you
don't get
see a
mad
lot
at
of
me.
the conversation, so it's helpful to get your thoughts. And it's nice to get an optimistic point of view. I sent this to my boss yesterday. It's a Forbes article, 5 Chat GPT prompts to completely replace your marketing team in 30 days.
Nice. I would say, well, who reads Forbes? So what do
It
they
was
know?
probably it was probably written by a bot anyway.
Of course, Forbes. Yeah, Forbes is garbage. So sorry, Forbes, if you're listening.
All good. All right. I have gotten through most of my questions, so I will just ask if there are anything I didn't ask that you wish I had. Final thoughts?
No, no.
All of your thoughts are
I've
out.
been enjoying more long form conversations because I think people see, social media content and a post for LinkedIn and like obviously there's nuance to that discussion. And so I think like having real conversations is important. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm figuring everything out every day, every
But you're
day.
a thought leader. Thought leaders are supposed to have all the answers.
Well, yes, I do. I do.
Perfect.
I still have 2 years to make 40 under 40, the 40 under 40 thought leader list. So that's
Okay.
that's the only reason I went on this podcast.
Nice. I am sure we can do something about that. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
What's going on inside of Databox? Like, what's the conversations
Oh
around AI and where marketing is going?
man. All the things I would say on the go-to-market team side, it's very much like, we're a small team. How can we do more with less? Everybody's using it. I'm playing around a lot with custom GPTs and um, we're working with a freelancer to build out some like agentic workflows and things like that to just try to speed stuff up. I'm shocked every week at like the amount I can get done in a week or even a day that I'm like a year ago, 2 years ago, that took me a month. Like that was a month of work and I just
Yeah.
did it in 2 days. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
I think my favorite optimist with AI stuff right now is Dharmesh from HubSpot. And
Mhm.
I was listening to him talk on a podcast the other day, and he basically said, like, you need to at least start every project with, I'm going to use like ChatGPT to at least help me get this project going.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've been trying to adopt that, and I think that's helpful. But it
It's a
is,
great brainstorm
yeah,
partner. And I think the best piece of advice I got was from a good friend of mine. She's been very active with custom GPTs and testing stuff. And you know how ChatGPT especially has that habit of just telling you what you want to hear, and it tells it to you in such a nice, like affirming, encouraging way. And so she programmed hers to like be a sparring partner. Don't tell me what I want to hear, but like challenge me. And I did that to my personal favorite GPT, which I call it's Allie's clone. And it transformed it. It's so good. It's really helpful. And it's like just having like another version of yourself, but one that doesn't agree with you, one that challenges you and it knows how you think, but it
yeah.
pokes the holes and it finds those gaps. And that's been
Oh,
really helpful.
that's a great point. Like I do that all the time, which is like, tell me all the reasons why I shouldn't do this.
I say, tell me all the things. If I present this to my CEO, tell me all the questions he's going to ask and all the problems he's going to have with it. That's a great one too. And it literally, they are like the exact questions that he will then ask when I present stuff to him. And I'm like, I was ready for it. I was ready.
That's good. That's good.
Helpful.
Yeah, the ability to see the problem from the other side is really
Yeah.
useful.
And then on the product side, everybody wants AI and built into their products too. So we already had some AI, insights and features built in, but that's a big priority too, is taking that to the next level. So it's on
Cool.
everybody's minds.
All right. Well, 6 months from now, it'll change again, and we'll see.
Just hang on for the ride. That's what marketers do.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. This
No
was a
problem.
pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Move the Needle, make sure to subscribe and check out our newsletter. Every other week, we send out episode recaps with key takeaways, plus practical playbooks, free templates, and more. Sign up at databox.com/newsletter.